you notice the Germans really like take a stand and speak up on behalf of them or their family. And so now I really feel like if somebody accuses me of something I didn't do or they do something mean to me, I can stand up for myself and say, excuse me.
It's the Germany Experience, the podcast about life in Germany as seen through the eyes of outsiders. And visit my website, thegermanyexperience.de, for more information, to get in touch, and more. And I'm your host, Sean. Welcome to the show. My guest this week is Jenna from Canada, who recently started her own YouTube channel. So we're going to talk a bit about her experiences and why she's in Germany. But before we get that, I have to talk about the SEGEPADFO charity challenge. As you know, Nicole of the ExpatCast is my rival. She's just my nemesis. She's a podcaster in Germany. I'm a podcaster in Germany. In all honesty, that's all we need to be rivals. We're just, that's the way it is. So every year, of course, we have a charity challenge where we compete with each other to see who can raise the most money for charity. Now, the charity this year is Über den Tellerrand, and they promote diversity and integration by organizing events with Germans and migrants that are based around food. They cook food from each other's cultures, talk to each other, and work to break down stereotypes that we might have of other cultures. And we're supporting a project of their Freiburg branch to build a mobile kitchen. The charity drive is SEGEPADFO, which stands for the second ever Germany Expat Podcasters Advent Donations Face-Off. And that was coined last year by Nicole when we had the FEGEPADFO, which was the first ever one of those. Now, as part of our competition, Nicole challenged me to write and record a jingle for SEGEPADFO, which I did. I've done it. But then I counter-challenged her to sing backing vocals on the jingle. And guess what? The challenge is completed on both sides. This is the SEGEPADFO jingle, written and recorded by me and with backing vocals by Nicole. It's Christmas time, which means it's giving time. And so it's Expat Podcaster Rivalry Time. It's the Germany Experience versus the Expat Cast.
SEGEPADFO.
It's the second ever
SEGEPADFO.
Expat Germany Podcaster
SEGEPADFO.
Advent Donation Face-Off.
SEGEPADFO.
It's SEGEPADFO. SEGEPADFO. So there it is. There's the jingle. I would love to know what you think. Please get in touch at thegermanyexperience.de/contact or email me at info@thegermanyexperience.de. It was a jingle that I wanted to be a little Christmassy and also a little jingly, and I hope that we accomplished it. And the most important thing is that we had fun doing it, and I think Nicole did a great job on the backing vocals. So here's the deal with SEGEPADFO. There is only 10 days left, because it ends on the 24th of December, and it's today, when this episode is going out, it's the 14th of December. So we don't have much time, and now is the part of the charity challenge where we kick things into high gear and we get as many donations as we can in the Endspurt, as the Germans like to say, the end. I don't even know if there's. I don't even know what the English word for that would be. The last stretch of the race, the Endspurt. Sounds so much better. Now, you have to donate. For information on the charity and instructions on how to donate, go to thegermanyexperience.de/charity 2020. That's thegermanyexperience.de/charity 2020. And when you donate, write the Germany Experience in the public comments field so we know that you're donating on behalf of this podcast. Now, in her latest SEGEPADFO update over at the ExpatCast, Nicole does some trash talk. Now, if you remember from last year, those listeners who were around back then, you might know that Nicole's trash talk game is not exactly on point. In fact, it's a little out there in that it's, I don't know. When you hear it, go and listen to that update episode of Nicole's in the ExpatCast feeds. I will put the link in the show notes. You have to listen to it. She has some interesting things to say, and I will be answering that trash talk this week on Instagram. So follow my Instagram, the Germany Experience on Instagram, to hear my reply to Nicole's trash talk, which includes comments about the shape of my head, by the way. So apparently, all bets are off, and this is the ugly part of SEGEPADFO now. We're into the ugly stretch. Forget the Endspurt. This is the ugly stretch where we would get nasty, apparently. So, yeah, go and listen to that update. And also this week, I will be posting the video of the bloopers we made while recording the SEGEPADFO video promo. So follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube to see that. And the reason I'm posting it is because we said if we got to 200 euros total donations between both Nicole and me, we'd post the bloopers. So they're getting posted because you deserved it. If you haven't donated, get donating. So here in Germany, of course, this week we'll be entering another hard lockdown, and they're closing the stores, and it's brutal. It really feels like the final knockout blow from 2020, just when things were looking up and things were looking positive. And it's just not a great feeling, basically. But I just want to say there is some positivity out there. There's good things coming in 2021. I think that this has been such a bad year. This is just the last part of it. And hopefully next year we can get past this thing and move on to better and happier times. So yeah, coronavirus is not going away just yet. Not just yet. Now, speaking of coronavirus, Google Trends releases their year-end search statistics every year. And it basically just shows you what the top searches of the year were in different categories. And the one for Germany is incredible because, as you would expect, the top general search that was done in Germany during 2020 was for coronavirus. That's number one. So, of course, you'd expect that, right? And, of course, the other ones are US Wahl, which is the US elections. Wirecard, there was a big Wirecard scandal earlier this year. BioNTech Acti is BioNTech, of course, they're making one of the vaccines for COVID-19, and Acti is stocks. So people are very interested in the stocks of this company. But my favorite is, so that of the top 5, number 3 top German search of 2020, Wetter morgen, or translates to weather tomorrow. It just amazing. This is the top 5. Number 1, coronavirus. Number 2, US Wahl. Number 3, Wetter morgen. Number 4, Wirecard. Number 5, BioNTech Acti. Just kind of slipped in there, the weather tomorrow. The Germans are very, very keen on the weather. So go and have a look at that. I'll post the link in my show notes. But another thing that made me laugh out loud when I read it was the War-Fragen, the where questions. And I'll just read the top 5, right? So, wo ist der Orkan jetzt? Where is the hurricane now? We had some bad weather this year, so I guess people were concerned about where the hurricane was. Wo fällt morgen die Schule aus? So, where are the schools closed tomorrow? So that's like coronavirus related. And then, and number 3, wo komme ich einen Mundschutz her? Where do I get a mask, basically? Number 4, wo liegt Hanau? Where is Hanau? And that is also related to news happenings that happened this year. But number 5 is the best of all of these Wo-Fragen. Number 5, wo wohnt Donald Duck? What, Germans? They're so concerned about these other things like hurricanes and schools being closed. And where's Hanau because of all these terrible things that happened there? And where does Donald Duck live? These are the big questions that Germany is asking. What is the weather tomorrow? And where does Donald Duck live? Oh, Germany, I love you so much. All right, on to my guest this week. And it's my last guest for 2020, and she's from Canada. Her name is Jenna, and she's just started her own YouTube channel a few months ago. We'd actually planned to talk a few weeks earlier, but she got COVID-19, and we had to delay our interview. We, of course, in our discussion, talk about her COVID-19 experience. We discuss why she's in Germany, and she explains why she loves German barbecue culture. Here is Jenna from Canada. This is actually an interview that is about a year and a bit in the making, because I first emailed you in the middle of 2019, I think it was. And then you said you'd love to do it, but you had to go back to Canada, which is where you're from, because you just had a baby, right?
Yeah. Wow, time flies.
Yeah, so you were on maternity leave, I think, back home in Canada, and then after that you returned, and now we're finally getting to have the discussion we started talking about last year. And I looked through the emails, and do you know how many emails we've sent to each other since we first made contact?
I haven't counted, but do I want to know?
Yeah, it's around 30 emails between each
Oh,
other. Yeah.
not
So
bad,
that's
not
just a
bad.
peek behind the scenes, for the listeners of how these things can be to organize and set up. And I always appreciate my guests' time as well for going through all the emailing processes and discussing the details and so on. But yeah, and we were supposed to meet a few weeks ago, but you kind of had circumstances that didn't quite allow it.
No, sadly not. I had actually lost my voice in the process of catching COVID. So,
Yeah,
it
it's all the rage, I've heard, this whole COVID thing.
oh, I know, and it was just a matter of time. I mean, my husband works in the medical field, so for us, it was more of a question of when as to if we were actually going to catch it.
Wow, that makes that is kind of scary. So you just kind of assume. What does he do in the medical profession?
He is a dentist, so I mean, every day you think
Ah,
there's so many doctors working, but as a dentist, you're working in people's mouths, right? And you're
yeah.
getting that
Oh my God.
spit back. So, whew.
Like you said, it's only a matter of time. But that must have been pretty scary when you found out that he was infected.
Yes, I think at the beginning, to be honest, I guess like after now that we've recovered from it and we've kind of gone through the entire process, I have to be honest and say that I'm not as scared now as I was previously. I knew that it doesn't impact each and every person in the exact same way. And I had hoped that we would get mild cases, and my husband had a much milder case than I did myself. However, now I think I guess I almost understand it a little bit more, understand how you catch it. And I think we all have these crazy thoughts running around in our minds. And sometimes we just make ourselves a little bit too crazy. And so, actually,
Yeah.
after having had it, I feel like I've just brought myself back down to reality and realized, okay, it's here, and we do have to be careful and not really let it impact my day to day life like I did before I actually got it.
Oh, that's interesting that you would have that sort of change of mindset after actually contracting it, right? Yeah.
And I think that you also have to compare your mental state too, right? And I think for me, I realized after being in quarantine for almost a month long, you really have to calm yourself down and tell yourself what's more important. And I mean, it's easy to say we're going to stay indoors all day, every day. But here in Germany, there are so many amazing opportunities to go out and explore the nature that I've kind of been able to better realize what's important for me. And yes, I have to be careful for my family and my friends, but I also need to also figure out what's important for me, as getting fresh air perhaps, or letting my child
Yeah.
run around in a green field.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's always tricky because, of course, the thing that's also on people's minds is that if probably for younger people like us, we will just contract it, either have no symptoms or have a mild case like you guys did, and the fear is always spreading it to people who are vulnerable and whatever else, because no one wants to be responsible for that. But like you say, it's easy to let the fear and the I don't know it's already a weird mindset that we have, and then you have that added layer of fear every day. It's not a good state of being to be in.
No, absolutely not. I think everybody needs to figure it out for themselves, really, and figure out what's
Yeah,
really
yeah,
best for them and how they can make sure that this doesn't really take over their lives. And whether that's the anxiety or the fear speaking, it's so important to make sure that you're
yeah,
focusing on yourself and your health.
yeah. Well, you are also the first guest that ever canceled on me because of COVID-19, so that is
A
something, I
very
guess.
valid excuse, right?
Yes. Yeah. So wow, I'm so glad that you guys got better and healed up. Is your husband back working again?
He is back working, yes. We both still have, I guess, leftover symptoms, if you want to call it that, but we're
Okay.
on the verge of being entirely, completely better.
And what are those symptoms that hang around?
It would definitely be the cough and the lack of scent and taste. So I still can't smell, I still can't taste. It's been a few weeks
Really?
now since I've been able to leave the house, and then that cough that just lingers as well. And it's not a contagious cough, it's just simply, it kind of just lasts. And it's almost like when you're
Yeah.
running outside in the winter and you get out of breath and then you go inside to somewhere warm and you just have to kind of cough a little bit. And
Cough. Yeah.
this is what still lingers for me.
Wow. So that is very interesting because the taste and the smell thing is something I've heard from a lot of people, and it's quite interesting that that's a side effect that stays for such a long time.
Yeah, it's annoying, but I mean, manageable, right? At least we're healthy.
Yeah, exactly. Small problems. But I didn't invite you on the show to talk about coronavirus. I just thought it was an interesting opportunity. And you've also, because something we haven't mentioned yet is you're a YouTuber now, and you made a YouTube video about your experiences with COVID-19. So if anyone wants to find out more about that, first of all, subscribe to your channel, which is Life in Germany. I'll link to it in the show notes as well, and people can find it really easily. And you've just made a video about your COVID-19 experience over there. But maybe give me some idea of your background, of where you're from and how you ended up in Germany.
Well, where to start? Back in 2012, I was working full-time in a job in marketing back in Toronto, Ontario. I was actually born in a small town outside of Toronto called Oakville, Ontario. And I was about 1 year away from finishing my university studies. And I decided that I wanted to take a big trip to South Africa. This was my very first blogging experience. I actually started out, as a travel blogger, as a travel writer. And my partnership was with Hostling International in South Africa. So I was required to head on over there for 1.5 months and basically write about my whole journey at every single hostel from the north down to the south. So from Joburg all the way down to Cape Town. It was amazing. Yeah, it was an incredible experience. I guess, long story short, I ended up meeting my husband there. So we did a 2-year long distance relationship. He was German, or is German, and I was Canadian. So we did that long distance. I moved to Thailand for a stint. I moved to India for a stint. And then finally, he convinced me to move to Germany.
Wow. So first of all, I had no idea. I don't think I had an idea about the South African connection for you. What was your time like in South Africa? Other than the fact that you met the love of your life.
Yeah, I think I'm a little bit biased now. I mean, that entire trip, it not only allowed me to meet my husband now, but it also allowed me to kickstart basically my career working as a freelancer and an entrepreneur working for myself, which has entirely changed my life. So separating the two parts, the travel there was also absolutely incredible. I have to say the people there were amazing and the sights there were just
South Africans.
Amazing.
Yeah, so you had 2 years of long distance. That must have been pretty tough on you guys.
Yes, I mean, that's pretty much where you realize, is it worth it or is it not worth it, right? And I have to be honest. After 2 years, I realized, you know what, this isn't working for me. I could never imagine moving to Germany, let alone learning an entirely new language. I thought, I'm never going to find a job in marketing. And in all honesty, I didn't until we started living in Freiburg. And in Freiburg, the opportunities there for English speakers are quite slim to none. And so when I first thought about it, I just thought, it's not an option for me. And he originally said, I will move to Canada and be a garbage man. I will clean toilets if I need to. I want to be with you.
I'm sorry, Jenna, that is romance. I will be a garbage man for you. That should be on a postcard or like one of those Hallmark cards somewhere.
However, he did not follow through, so there's that component.
Well, that's the part they don't put on Hallmark cards anyway. Yeah. So how did that work then? What triggered the move to Germany in the end?
Oh, it was, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, it was my mother, because my mother was a single parent raising 3 children on very, very little money. And so she taught me how to be, this independent woman who didn't need help from any man and that I could do it all myself. Right. And there was one day where I decided that, we needed to split up. This just wasn't going to work. He was not going to move to Canada and give up his career as a dentist. And I was just not going to learn a brand new language and move to Germany and leave my whole life back in Canada. So I think we broke up for about 2 weeks. And that was the toughest 2 weeks ever. And when my mom came to me and said, you know what, Jenna, this is different. And I've never said this, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think that you should give up your life and move to Germany for this man. He's worth it.
Wow.
Yeah, selling point there.
Yeah, that's pretty huge. So then so then you kind of called him up and said, "Okay, let's do it," or how did those planning stages look?
Uh, Baby steps. I think everybody also needs to do that as well, right? I told myself, you know what? I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to come there. And if I think back and it doesn't work, well, all I did quit was my job. I didn't give
Right.
up my life or my friends or my family or anything. So I would go there for a few months, see how it worked, see if I would find a job and if I could succeed there, if I could learn the language, and basically just took it step by step by step. Our initial decision was that we were going to wait until he finished his studies in Freiburg and then move to the UK so that I could get an English speaking job and we could
Ah,
essentially meet halfway.
sure.
That didn't end up happening because of some family matters. His papa actually ended up passing away, sadly.
No.
So we decided to move north to Düsseldorf, and that was the big pushing decision to come up here.
Okay, to Düsseldorf, which is interesting. What was the connection with Düsseldorf?
His entire family was from here. They originate from Berlin. They were all born there, but they moved over to Düsseldorf. So I have to be honest and say that when we were planning on coming to Düsseldorf, it was simply only for his family. I
Yeah.
had been here, I had visited his family, and I really, really didn't like it.
We really didn't like it. What didn't you like about Düsseldorf?
I think when you first come here, you've got this, I guess, basic tourist understanding of what the city is like. And that's usually art and fashion, the art and
Right.
fashion capital of Germany. And
Yeah.
that is not what I'm about whatsoever. I love thrifting, I love flea markets, I love hiking, I love nature. None of that screamed Jenna. However, I mean, once you peel back the layers, of course, that's what got me interested. And that's what made me stay and actually end up falling in love with the city at the end.
Yeah. So what was that first period of time like? So you moved to Germany with the idea that you were going to give this relationship a chance, you were giving up a career. What was that first period of time like when you were confronted with the culture in all its glory?
I think I have to divide that into two different sections, basically. And I say that because when I first came here, I didn't entirely have the intention of living the rest of my life here. So when you first come and you think, oh, this is going to be an amazing experience, if we hate it, we could both move back to Canada or we could move to the UK. So when I first got started, I was so excited. I did Oktoberfest and
Yeah.
I did all of the big castles and I saw all these amazing stereotypical German cobblestone streets and half timbered houses. And this was amazing. But it wasn't until I moved to Düsseldorf at a very terrible time, might I add, because I would not recommend any expat moving to Germany in January or February. Those are like the
Yes.
worst, rainiest months
It is
to
February
move.
is I said it in a recent podcast episode as well, talking about someone who arrived here in winter. That winter
Mhm.
is as it is. It's in Germany can be a little bit get you a bit down because it snows. We just had snow recently where I am the past few days, which is wonderful because it's fresh snow. But after that, it's just grey and dreary and short days and rain, and it can really get you down. And February is the worst of it. So yeah, it's interesting that it's come up again. And there you have it. Don't move to Germany in January or February. That's a big bit of advice.
No,
All right. So that was your
yeah,
experience.
it will impact everything.
Yeah. Okay. So that was the initial thing was a bad time of the year to be there.
Yeah. And so the second part basically is that, I mean, I moved here in a very terrible period. I moved from the Black Forest where there's so much beauty and
Yeah.
where so many tourists go to visit Germany because it is so amazing, to a city. And then to actually realizing, okay, you know what, this is my life and I actually have to settle down. So I actually have to find a better phone plan and I have to buy insurance for myself and I have to get a proper job. And all of that is when it kind of just hit me. And that's when the culture shock started hitting me and everything really started to
Mm,
drag me down. And I think it's just a process that we all go through. You
yeah.
have that stage of excitement and then you have that stage of realizing, okay, this is my life now. And it does take time. And there are so many different steps that you need to take to relocate here that even perhaps your German husband isn't knowledgeable to let you know about or to warn you about certain things that you need to know before getting started.
Oh yeah. I think the Germans are oblivious to the whole process. They have no idea of what it actually takes to get settled in Germany.
Exactly.
Did you have discussions or thoughts at the time like this is not going to work out? Let's move.
Definitely. I
Yeah.
think that's where the conversation of moving to the UK kept constantly coming up. And I don't know how or why I did it, but I just kept pushing through. And at some point, I realized, you know what? I'm not the only person who's going through this. And I think as tough as it is to relocate to Germany, it's probably not going to change anywhere else. It's a little bit easier if you're able to do the process in English,
Yeah.
but the relocation process, you're still going to go through all of those stages as you would in Germany or perhaps the UK or wherever in the world you relocate. So I just realized, you can't just chicken out and run away. If you want this experience and if you want to move to be with somebody who you love, then you're just going to have to do it. And that's when I realized that I wasn't alone. And although I could not find this content online, I was going to do that for myself, and I was going to share all of my experiences with my readers.
Okay. And is that when you started life in Düsseldorf?
Exactly. That's the whole basis behind the blog. And it was also a selfish creation, basically, because when I had questions, I knew I'm going to add it to the blog. So I'm going to contact whoever will help me answer this question and ask them to write an English blog post about it on the site. So I wasn't actually creating the content at the beginning because I wasn't the expert. It was the experts, the German experts who spoke English, who would do it. And in turn, they generated tons of income, freebie income from my website to help people better relocate.
Yeah. And that website, it looks like it's grown into something quite substantial, right?
It really took off. And when we talked about me founding this travel writing career or this travel blog, I was making a decent income, usually through writing for other platforms, but never on my own website. So this was something that really shocked me when I realized, oh my God, within 1 month, my readership on Life in Düsseldorf was 10 times what it had ever been in the last 5 years on my travel blog. And I thought, why? I thought I was writing this just for myself and maybe, 10 other people in the city, but it exploded. And then I created a course and helped them learn how to relocate to Düsseldorf. And then I had a number of people contacting me saying, why don't you do this for Germany? It's so difficult. And so that's where I am now, is I've then built on the process, created this YouTube channel, Life in Germany, and also created the website, lifeingermany.com, which is then basically offering this entire course of not just the basics, the visa requirements and moving to the city and getting your house and your apartment and your phone plan, but also the nitty gritty information that nobody really tells you when you first get here. So,
and as I said, I'll put those links in the show notes. People can have a look at them, and your YouTube channel as well, which is it's fairly new. You just started that fairly recently.
Yes, just a few months ago.
Yeah. Last year, we mentioned, I think it was last year, that you had the baby. Or when did you have the baby?
2 years now.
2 years.
He was born September 2018. So yeah, just over 2 years.
2 years. And then last year you were in Canada on maternity leave. So having spent, how long had you been in Germany at that point for?
5 years maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, 4.5, 5 years.
So you'd been in Germany for 5 years and then decided to spend at least part of your maternity leave back in Canada. So you went back with the child. So I'm interested, after 5 years, I'd assume you were feeling fairly at home here in Germany. You'd already decided this is a place that you're going to be long-term. And then you went back to Canada. What was that like for you?
Exciting, amazing, and stressful all at the same time. I mean, you go back and you realize that as much as it's still home when you go to your parents' house, it's not your home, especially when you have a child, because then your home becomes something so much more important than just a space. It's like where they grow up, where all of their memories happen. So going back home was so exciting so that my entire family could then meet my son. But then you also feel a little bit lost, almost like somewhere in this middle between I'm not German, but I'm not Canadian either. Yeah.
So you could perhaps say that you had some reverse culture shock when you went back, or there wasn't any kind of thoughts where you thought, wow, it would actually be good to live in Canada.
Yes and no. So, I mean, At the end of the day, it makes a lot more sense to stay in Germany. And I say that because there's just so many added benefits to having and raising a family here in Germany. You've got free education, and the support that you get from the German government is just incredible. I've
Mm,
never had a child in Canada, so it's not easy to compare. But from what I know through my friends and my family, I think that Germany is just such a special place to raise a family, and that I should be honored to be here. And I am honored to be here. But then you've always also got that feeling of, we're in Germany, and my entire family, who is very loving, very good with kids, and who misses their grandson and their nephew so badly, that it breaks my heart knowing that
yeah.
we're living here in Germany and they're all back home. So yeah, it's tough, but I think we all go through that when we move to Germany and then go back home and then come back again to Germany. I think you've really the missing home, that feeling of missing home, just like kind of blows up in your face when you arrive back.
Yeah. So it's definitely clear that Germany starts changing you the longer that you are here and the more integrated that you become. What do you think the way are some of the ways that that Germany changed you?
I'd say in the biggest aspect of my life, Germany has changed me for the better. I would say that I stand up for myself a lot more than I used to in Canada. Back in Canada, we typically say sorry for everything. I'm sure you've heard of that before. Even when like somebody bumps you, or like they spill their coffee on you, you turn around and say, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." Like, I don't know why we do it, but we do. And so, in certain situations where perhaps somebody yells at me here for something that I didn't actually do or that I wasn't at fault for, in Canada, you would just typically say, "I'm so sorry. Like, I didn't do that, but I'm sorry anyway." And you'd back
Yeah.
off. Whereas now that I've lived in Germany long enough, you notice the Germans really like take a stand and speak up on behalf of them or their family. And so
Yeah.
now I really feel like if somebody accuses me of something I didn't do, or they do something mean to me, I can stand up for myself and say, "Excuse me." I, it's a good feeling.
Yeah. And what is your relationship with Germans themselves? Have you gotten to understand them a bit better than when you arrived, or?
Yeah, I think that the biggest factor here is once you really start to learn a language, and not just being able to speak German, but being able to speak German in a conversation and somewhat being able to let your own personality shine. And I still struggle with this because, of course, my German's not perfect and my grammar is absolutely atrocious. But slowly and step by step, I can begin to let my personality shine. And I think that that helps a lot of the time when meeting Germans and when making friends. I still find it difficult. I have to be honest. I think it's just, I've said this before also in other videos where it's kind of like peeling back the layers of like onion or garlic,
Yeah.
like it takes a lot of time to make friends with somebody, with a German. But I find that once you really get to the core and you become friends with them, they're really friends for life. And I know that people have probably read and heard about this stereotype before, but it is very true.
It is, yeah. It's something that keeps coming up on this podcast as well from a multitude of guests. And another thing, just I mean, it's a little off topic right now, but it's kind of to do with the German culture and the Germans. Is that I saw that you mentioned in one of your videos that you love the German barbecue culture, which is interesting because usually this is one thing that people from their own cultures, they love the way that they do the barbecue. So tell me what it is
Yeah.
about the German barbecue culture that you love.
Well, if we're comparing North American barbecue culture, we're talking like burgers and hot dogs, right?
Okay.
So, um, and coming from somebody, I actually only eat chicken. I don't eat any other type of meat. So the barbecue culture back in Canada is pretty much non-existent for me. I don't really enjoy it, but it's not so much about the meat aspect of it here in Germany. It's more about when they decide to have barbecues, because I find now that my summers are so much more enjoyable here in Germany because we pretty much have a barbecue every single day. And this differs from like groups of friends and groups of families, of course, and perhaps what city or what town you live in. But I think it's so cool that, Tuesday afternoon, you come home from work and you've got this period of time where you're just like, let's go have a barbecue.
Yeah.
You have a barbecue anywhere. People do it in the parks
Yes.
here. They do it. You don't have, or at least in the cities I'm speaking in terms of Germany, there's not that much space. You don't have backyards and stuff. So whereas in Canada, you would just like turn on your gas barbecue, here they actually, light the charcoals, take it to the park or take it to the
Yeah.
beach or whatever. And it's just like, it's an entire experience within itself rather than let's just go make dinner.
Yeah. Yeah, it's. I must say, coming from South Africa, you would have noticed that the South Africans also love their barbecues, which they call braais in South Africa, and it's something that I can understand about the Germans as well. I really like their approach. Any reason for a barbecue, and the weather doesn't even have to be that great. It's just let's have a barbecue. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. So Jenna, what I ask the guests that come on my show at the end of our interview is, what is the one biggest bit of advice that you can offer to other foreigners who are coming to Germany?
Well, I'll roll back to that point that we mentioned. Do not move here in January or February. I'm not kidding when I say this. Like, I've had my fair share. I talk to expats not only in Düsseldorf, but from around Germany now. And from what I've seen and from what I've experienced, there are so many of them who basically give up halfway through their relocation process because they just haven't been able to experience the best of Germany when they first got here. And I think as important as it is to go through the entire relocation process and fill out all your paperwork and everything, it is just as important to make sure that you enjoy your life here in Germany before getting started. So if you can, also like come over for a month beforehand, or don't start work right away, and really get to know Germany for what it is, because there are so many travel opportunities here, even in the middle of a pandemic, like there are so many places to see, even in my own city or in your own town. And 30-minute drive, like for me, I drive 30 minutes and I'm in the Netherlands, or I drive 40 minutes and I'm in Belgium. And this goes for pretty much anywhere where you live in Germany. We're surrounded by amazing, beautiful countries, and there's just so much to experience and so many beautiful little towns here and whatnot. So if you can get a little bit of that as a taste, then you can jump into your relocation process, get all that paperwork done, and really get a fresh, good, healthy start here in Germany. And then also look forward to, well, what else do I want to see here? What else do I want to experience? And a lot of expats and a lot of internationals, I mean, the whole reason at the beginning for starting life in Düsseldorf was, yes, because I had troubles relocating here because I just felt like I didn't have that support. And I also didn't have the money to, hire a relocation agent. However, the biggest part of creating this website was to actually promote other expats not to leave me. I made so many friends at the beginning when I first got here, and almost all of them are gone. And it's not because Germany is a terrible country.
No, it's the nature
pretty
of
much it is. It's the nature of relocating as an expat. It's a huge process regardless of where you go. But I basically wanted to create this website so that they saw, it is an easy process. You just have to know exactly how to do it. And if nobody is going to be there holding your hand, telling you all of these little tidbits of information, that's hard. And so I would say, before you come here, just make sure that you're ready and that you have a plan and that you don't just jump into it all at once. And I guess this is why I created lifeingermany.com and why I created this welcome program, is because there's other information. Like when you first move here, you might jump on the first phone plan that you see because you don't know what else to do. Whereas you could go to like an O2 shop across the street perhaps and pay 40 euros for your phone plan. Whereas, did anybody tell you that you can actually pay $4.99 for a phone plan? You know what I mean? Or like that you might get locked into church taxes if you don't know how to fill out your registration form properly. Or like little tidbits of information, like your electricity contract. If you just decide to let them like choose your electricity package for you, then you might get stuck in this like Grundversorgung, which is like the most expensive electricity package that you could possibly have. There's so many ways to save money, and there's so many easier ways to get around things. There's like, you can file your taxes in English online. There's just so many ways to make it so much easier. And I think that people really need to make sure that they're well prepared before they get here, and that they know exactly how to do everything, and that they don't move here in the wintertime, so that they can make the best of their experience from the get-go.
Yes. And if you do have to come in wintertime, just be aware that you're not seeing an accurate representation of the country. Everyone is kind of a little gloomier. The weather there's not much to see and do, and the weather is not that fun. It gets better. Spring is incredible in Germany. Summer is amazing. But something you just said surprised me. I was not aware that you could do your tax returns in English.
Right? I know. I think the website's called Steuergo.
Okay.
And they do it all in English. They ask you all the questions that you need. Do you have children? Like, do you own a property? Do you own this, that, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. You go through the whole process and they send it to the Finanzamt, to the tax office for you. And I think it's like 30 or 35 euros. So it's super cheap option and it's in English. And we're recording this in December 2020, but I think in 3-4 months from now, there's so many other opportunities where you can do things in English here in Germany that it's getting easier and easier to relocate.
Absolutely. Where can people find you online, Jenna?
Over at lifeindusseldorf.com. That's DUE, with the umlaut. And lifeingermany.com, of course, also over on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter, you name it. But Google Life in Düsseldorf or Life in Germany and some stuff should pop up.
All right. And of course, links in the show notes, so you'll be able to click on and go directly there. Jenna, thank you for making the time to come on the podcast. It was a lot of fun talking to you.
Thanks so much for having me. I love talking about all of my history and my stories and everything. And I hope that other expats can learn from it and also, have an amazing experience relocating to Germany.
Okay, that is it for this week. Go donate in the name of the German experience at SEGEPADFO, thegermanyexperience.de/charity 2020, and you'll be doing a good thing. Yeah, it's time for, as the jingle says, it's a time for giving. So let's give, let's donate. Thanks for listening. Music in this episode by my band 10 Cent Janes. Additional music by Ryan Anderson until the end. This is the end. Stay healthy out there. Auf Wiederhören.
It's Christmas time, which means it's giving time. So it's expat podcaster rivalry time. It's the Germany experience versus the expat cast. SEGEPADFO. It's the second ever SEGEPADFO Expat Germany podcaster. SEGEPADFO Advent donation face off. SEGEPADFO. It's SEGEPADFO.